Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out, episode 312. Hope you're all enjoying the day so far on this second weekend of September. Techtember for members of the consumer tech media like yours truly, as there are so many events this month and leading into the fall, including, by the way, Apple's big press event this week in Cupertino, California. I'll report, by the way, what's new from there next week to you, whether it's the new iPhone 15 family and what to expect with those devices, new Apple Watch models, perhaps, a new iPad, maybe, and I hope more hands-on time with Apple Vision Pro, that mixed reality headset that I got to try out a few months back. It's wild. Anyhow, I'm looking forward to my trek to Apple's HQ. On today's show, however, we do have a lot of ground to cover, packed with great guests. We're going to kick things off with a discussion about air purifiers with radon detection. We'll learn what the airborne risks are to you and your family and what some devices can do about it. We'll chat with a company called Airthings. After that, I'm thrilled to have back onto the show Michael Jabbara from Visa. Michael is VP and head of global fraud services at Visa, to talk with us about a new threat report that was just published this past week that shows how much worse ransomware is getting, in part because of AI. But he's got like a dozen tips on how to easily safeguard your information, even if you're more tech shy than tech savvy, let's say. And finally, LG will join us to talk about 3 new TV models that are all very unique in their own right. 2 of them are OLED TVs, and the third is super cool. It's called Stand By Me, which is like a huge touchscreen tablet, if you will, on wheels, so you can roll it from room to room in the home or go outside, and it's wireless, so you don't need to plug it in unless you're charging it up like your phone. Wild stuff. All of this and more on an all-new Tech It Out, powered by ASUS for those in search of incredible. I'll tell you more about ASUS shortly, but let's officially kick off the show with our first interview. Protecting one's home, and more importantly, your family within it, of course, is top of mind for so many these days, especially as we've been hearing so much about natural disasters like wildfires, decimating communities. But fire prevention and air quality are things that we should consider all year round, in fact, even if you don't live in an area vulnerable to the elements. And so we're now going to learn about some solutions with Erlend Bolle. He is Chief Technical Officer at Airthings, joining us on the line. Hi, Erlend. Thanks so much for your time today.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me on the show.
Before we talk about specific products, please tell us about Airthings.
Sure. So Airthings is a Norwegian global tech company. We started in 2008 with the ambition to digitize radon detectors. So radon is radioactive gas that everyone have in their home, but which up to then was measured by analog methods. So which kind of like we developed Kodak film back in the days. You had to send your radon film to lab to get developed. We really wanted to digitize that process. And we launched our first digital radon monitor in 2011. And today we are a company that are providing insights into your indoor air quality for homes and commercial buildings. We use that information to help you improve your health, productivity, wellness, as well as optimizing how a building is run and to help customers reduce their energy consumption. We feel like we are kind of addressing one of the bigger health issues we have, where in North America, 45,000 people die annually of radon gas and several hundred thousand people die of poor air quality.
Oh, wow.
So we're really a mission-led company and are really trying to help people as best we can to improve their.
Fantastic. What would you say, Erlend, makes your product lineup unique when it comes to air quality or home protection solutions as a whole?
I think first and foremost, we don't compromise on quality. And especially, I would say the big differentiator for us is maybe when it comes to our sensors. So we use the same high-quality sensors and standards for our products for commercial buildings, which are used to kind of run up to kind of big skyscrapers, as we do for homeowners. Because we really believe that air quality is as important at home as it is at your workplace. The high quality of standards is also important when it comes to advising users kind of into taking mitigating actions, right? We really don't want to be the company where provides you with wrong information or inaccurate information, which could lead to customers living with poor air quality for a long time without knowing. And we also have battery-operated product and products that communicate wirelessly, which is with years of battery lifetime, which is unique in the field we are, and which kind of provides flexibility in terms of placement. And we really are the only ones in the market with up to 10 plus years battery lifetime, so some of the products we have. And in addition, user-friendly product experience and great product design is something that we really highly value. And of course, we are going to talk about how our products help improve air quality as well today. So they work with most smart home ecosystems and can control other products like air purifiers and ventilation and HVAC.
All right, so with that in mind, and speaking of homes, Erlend, let's hear about the View Plus, which from what I understand is a comprehensive device that is ideal for family rooms and kitchens where people tend to spend a lot of time together.
That's correct. I mean, the View Plus is really our flagship product. It's, as you say, it's ideal for the room in your home where you spend the most time. It measures the most important factors of indoor air quality, like radon, particulate matter, VOCs, which is volatile organic compounds like chemicals in your air, temperature, humidity, CO2, which indicates how well your home is ventilated. In addition, you get information like weather forecast, pollen data, for those that are allergic, outdoor air quality information as well. It also has a unique e-ink display, which can be customized to show what you really what's kind of most important to you. We have done that because we think everyone in the family or in the home should have access to the air quality information either through the app or through the display. Of course, battery operated and supports Wi-Fi, so it can be connected to your Wi-Fi at home. This can also act as a gateway or for other Airthings products.
All right. So can you clarify, Erlend, about how they can work with an app, or does it also work with smart speakers like your voice, like Alexa or Google devices, things like that?
So we support all the bigger smart home ecosystems like Google Home, Google Assistant, Alexa.
Right.
We support a product something called Homey, IFTTT, and others. And this is where you can use our insights and the data that we are collecting from your home to interface that to other appliances that you have that could mitigate air quality issues.
Could you give us an example of something that you might be able to say with your voice by a smart speaker that helps you with the air quality?
Yeah. So, I mean, as you already said, I mean, wildfires has been a thing lately. And so you could ask an Alexa speaker, what's my particulate matter level in my living room or in my daughter's bedroom? Another thing you can ask for is like, what's the radon level in my basement? And then you'll get a prompt back and an answer back with your radon level. And then you can take it from there and also get recommendations in terms of what to do.
We're chatting with Erlend Bolle. He is CTO of Airthings, joining us on the line from Oslo, Norway, talking with us about air quality and some smart devices for your home, including the View Plus from Airthings to help keep your family safe. Now, I talked about this in my introduction, Erlend, which is wildfire season seems to really intensify each year. You know, of course, the smoke spreading far and wide. Take recent events in Maui or Yellowknife in Canada as examples. How does that affect air quality, and how can you measure the potentially harmful effects of that?
Wildfires, I mean, produce a range of harmful air pollutants, right? So from known cancer-causing substances to tiny particles that can aggravate existing health problems. And Airthings can not only measure these particles, but can also alert a homeowner when their levels are rising, which can trigger them to take action to reduce them. So that's one of the many of the smart features that can make that makes the View Plus a smart device. And additionally, your View Plus can talk to other Airthings devices, as we already mentioned. And as an example, one of the simplest but most common use cases for the product device actually has to be linked to wildfire is that View Plus can let you know exactly when to close your window to stop the outer air pollutants from getting in. And then you can work on improving your air quality reading, using tools like purifiers, or even simplify moving them to other rooms.
And just to be clear, the Airthings air quality monitors do not have the purifier built in. That would be like a separate device.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So Airthings can be used as a external or a separate sensor. So it's a really high quality sensor that can be used to run your purifier.
Got it. And then finally, where can we learn more, Erlend, including pricing, images or videos, and so on and so forth?
Good source is airthings.com or Amazon or Best Buy are places where you can learn more and you can purchase the product if you wish. Finally, you can follow us, of course, on Meta or X and LinkedIn through the handle at Airthings, where we keep things trendy and fresh.
I like that. Airthings is one word, just for our listeners, capital AIRTHINGS. Erlend Bolle, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Tech It Out is powered by ASUS for those in search of incredible. ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life, including its line of award-winning laptops and desktops, monitors, smartphones, and much more. For those in search of incredible, visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. Last week on Tech It Out, we had a discussion about the new ZenBook 14X OLED laptop. If you want to hear that on your favorite podcast platform, just look for the September 1st edition or episode 311 of Tech It Out, when I chatted with ASUS's Philip Chung on the program. When we return, we're going to talk with Visa's Michael Jabbara about fraud protection and the simple tips you can take to protect yourself and your family. Stick with us. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. Last week, Visa, a world leader in digital payments, released the fall 2023 edition of its biannual threats report. It highlights emerging fraud schemes targeting the economy. We're now going to unpack some of those highlights and what it means for you. Thrilled to have back onto the show Michael Jabbara, Vice President and Head of Global Fraud Services at Visa. Thanks for your time, Michael. Good to chat with you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me again, Mark.
Before we talk about Visa's just published threats report, please remind our listeners how involved Visa has been in fraud prevention over the past few years.
Fraud prevention is a core part of what we do day in and day out at Visa. As a network that processes almost $15 trillion of payment volume annually across 200 plus countries, we wouldn't be able to achieve that level of scale if we didn't provide our partners with a safe yet seamless experience. And a huge part of that is making sure that the right transactions are approved and the bad transactions are declined.
And just to quantify that, we're talking a double-digit billion-dollar investment by Visa to fight fraud over the past several years.
That's correct. Over the past 5 years, to support our security mission, we've invested over $10 billion over a 5-year period.
Wow, that's no chump change.
Absolutely.
All right. Visa just published its findings from your biannual threats report. What did you set out to find with this fall 2023 edition?
What we really wanted to do is kind of understand how the risk landscape is shifting so that we can align our investments and our capabilities accordingly. You know, the fraud landscape is becoming much more complex as we have seen this massive shift towards digital channels that was driven by COVID, as we've seen increasing sophistication of threat actors and how they're organized and how they're funded. And as we've seen kind of this big bang-like explosion in new and innovative technologies like Gen AI,
right,
which are making consumers' lives much easier, but they also provide somewhat terrifying opportunities for fraudsters to be more effective at what they do as well.
Good point. With the popularity of ChatGPT and other generative AI tools freely available, it's not just used for good, but by those malicious types out there looking to defraud you.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, Michael, let's discuss the findings on these emerging threats. Why don't we start with ransomware attacks? Are they on the downswing or is this still growing? And maybe we can define that first as well.
Yeah, so essentially, ransomware attacks are where a threat actor gains illicit access to your network and then encrypts your data, your files, and will not give you access back to those files unless you pay them. And if you don't pay them, then they will release that data, which more often than not is quite sensitive to the general public. They're essentially holding your information for ransom in the digital space.
And it's not just affecting businesses and governments, but regular consumers too.
Well, absolutely, because these businesses and governments have your personal information as part of its database, everything from your email address to your birthday, social security, and a whole host of other personally identifiable information that could be used to create a profile and monetize it at your expense.
Yeah, a bunch of college kids in May were hacked, whereby their passwords and social security numbers and other information was held hostage until they paid up. Some did, some didn't. Scary times. Is it getting better, Michael?
Yeah, well, I wish I was here to tell you that it was getting better, but unfortunately it isn't. What we have seen, in fact, is about a 90+% increase over the previous 6-month period in terms of the incidence of ransomware attacks. And I think that is an unfortunate finding, but also an expected one, because as we have seen, the number of entry points that these threat actors have multiplied as you think about the complexity of the ecosystems that we find ourselves in and all of the new players that have come into the space. So each of these nodes becomes a point of vulnerability that could potentially be exploited.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to what you attribute this rise in ransomware attacks, almost double. So it's that more of our devices are online, as you're hinting at, this Internet of Things era that we're entering, even our cars. What about AI programs like ChatGPT? They are helping these cyber criminals with their attacks too.
Absolutely. And I think what we've seen over the past 6 months is what I would term this democratization of access to malicious toolkits that can be leveraged to carry out these types of attacks. Everything from being able to craft much more compelling email messages that would trick consumers into clicking malicious links that they shouldn't be, messages that don't have the telltale signs of misspellings or bad grammar or things of that nature, all the way to something that's a little bit more technical where you could use one of these ALMs to generate snippets of code that could be downloaded onto a device or laptop of these unsuspecting victims to essentially run the program. So now you don't have to be massively technical in the development of these ransomware software. You can actually leverage the tools that are now available to you to really shorten that learning curve.
And just to be clear, ALM is advanced language models?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the most popular one, of course, is ChatGPT, but we've also seen these malicious applications of that. One of the more popular ones in the dark web is fraudGPT, which is really good branding in terms of what it's setting out to do.
Lovely.
Just helping out, threat actors carry out these fraud attacks.
More with Michael Jabbara from Visa. When we return, we're going to continue chatting about fraud prevention. You're listening to Tech It Out. I'm your host, Mark Saltzman. If you're on social media, drop by and say hi. I'm on all the big platforms. I'll spell my name in a moment, but I'm on X, formerly Twitter, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, T2, Blue Sky, and others. It's Mark Saltzman, MarkSaltzman. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out. Stay with us.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out. On the line, we've got Michael Jabbara, VP and Head of Global Fraud Services at Visa. Michael and I have something in common. While my role as a tech journalist and broadcaster is to what I call break down geek speak into street speak, similarly, Michael is fluent in fraudulese, as he likes to call it, so he can explain these threats to us and our wallets in a language we can understand. Today, we're discussing the results of Visa's Fall 2023 Threat Report, which saw a significant rise of phishing scams and ransomware proliferated in part through generative AI tools like ChatGPT. Speaking of AI, Michael, the last time you were on the show, you talked to us about scammers using AI to create speech. Can you elaborate and tell us what you found in this study?
Oh, absolutely. And so what we've seen is much more realistic capabilities in terms of generating realistic speech that is able to mimic human emotions and the human cadence of speech, which then could be deployed to bypass some of the tried and true security methods that we have in place, like generating one-time passwords, right? There's this great example where you can take speech from publicly available sources, say public figures who give presentations, and then use these tools, which again are widely available, and you don't have to search for them too hard to get it. Then you can create a request that says, hey, I am the CFO or CEO of a company. I would like you to change the account information for this vendor and wire them hundreds of thousands of dollars ASAP. And so if you are somebody who works in that organization and you get this voice note from the senior executive, which sounds very convincing, you're more likely to just act and then do it. And that becomes a much more successful fraud attack than if you were to get an email or a text message with the aforementioned misspellings and grammatical errors and things like that.
Crazy. It seems like an ongoing cat and mouse chase that's ever evolving. So obviously there's a lot to unpack here. It would be remiss not to ask you about what we can do to best protect ourselves, even if we're not tech savvy.
Yeah, I think it just starts with a mindset of being a proactive advocate on your behalf when it comes to cyber and fraud matters. So take a little bit of time to really determine whether the email, text message, even voicemail that you've received is legitimate or not. Always do what I would like to call an out-of-band authentication, meaning that you don't respond directly to the phone number that has called you or to the email sender that has sent you this note, but go directly to the source. Call your bank directly, go to the merchant directly, call your family member directly if they're emailing you from a new address or one that looks very similar to their old address.
Great tip.
Yeah, absolutely. And use the tools that are available to you. I know we don't like to do it. It's kind of like eating your vegetables, but sign up for two-factor authentication on all of your sensitive accounts to make it that much harder for fraudsters to hack your accounts. Sign up for those transaction alerts that let you know where your accounts are being used so that if something looks suspicious, you're the first to know and then you could shut it down quickly. And create kind of controls around how much and where you're spending so that you have a lot more visibility. And again, the fraudsters are always going to go after the lowest hanging fruit. They are running a business and they're looking to maximize their return on investment. So they're going to go after a segment that is not protecting themselves. And if everybody around you is, then you become the weak spot. Think of it as herd immunity. That is essentially what we're trying to get to when it comes to fraud prevention.
Or path of least resistance.
Yep, exactly.
Multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, just as a reminder, combine something which is your password, with something you have, like your phone. You'll often get a one-time code sent to your device that you also need to type in to prove it's really you. Great advice. And then finally, Michael, any tips to safer shopping online or at retail?
Absolutely. One of the interesting things that we have seen is also this increase in the amount of schemes that are related to retail shopping. So things like fake or spoofed merchant websites where they look very similar to the real thing, but it's not quite the real thing. So it's Nike with 2es.com that is looking to sell you athletic wear, but it's not really the real organization. So, be careful of that. We've seen instances of merchants that pop up promising to sell you A, B, and C. You submit the order and you never get the goods and you realize it was a scam all along. Essentially do an increased level of diligence. Make sure that the URL, for instance, starts with HTTPS, with that S denoting that it's a secure connection.
Right.
Do your research on the merchant, see what the online reviews are saying to make sure that it's legitimate and has a history of actually delivering their own services. Make sure that I would be remiss if I didn't plug using your Visa card, which gives you buyer protection when it comes to these types of scams.
Of course. And at retail, are card skimmers still a thing?
So there's never a moment where you can relax when it comes to these types of attacks. So we had seen kind of a shift away from physical skimmers during the pandemic because nobody was shopping in store. And then as life has returned to normal, we have seen an increase in physical skimmers where there's an overlay on the physical point of sale device that is skimming the card data. The good news there is that the efficacy and the scalability of those attacks is quite limited because we have improved kind of the encryption technology on the card itself. So even if the data is shifted away, it's very hard for them to monetize because the cryptogram that we included in the physical cards is dynamic. So that part cannot be skimmed or generated by the fraudsters. But they're still, again, they're always probing for potential weak spots. So we can never rest easy.
Thank you, Michael. All right. And then finally, where can we learn more about this fall 2023 threats report and other Visa security related information?
It would be at visa.com/security, where you have all of these resources available to you.
All right. Visa.com/security. Michael Jabbara has been our guest. Great to chat with you again, Michael. Very informative. Thanks so much for your time. All the best. Have a great fall.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark.
Speaking of protecting yourself, don't forget about backing up your important files on a regular basis, just to err on the side of caution. I always trust my data with Western Digital and SanDisk. External drives are the way to go, in my opinion. Yes, I like the cloud because you can access your files from everywhere and it's off-site storage, but there's nothing like having terabytes and terabytes of data that's local and offline that you can easily back things up to. There are some great sales to be had as well, by the way, if you go to westerndigital.com or your favorite retailer like Amazon or Best Buy or what have you. When we return on Tech It Out, we're going to chat with LG about what's new in TVs. A hint, a lot. We'll be right back. Stick with us.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out. If you're in the market for a new TV, I always say the best quality that you can go with is an OLED television for its outstanding contrast, rich colors, high brightness, and several other benefits. LG, of course, is a leader in the OLED space. And so I wanted to invite back onto the show Gilles Pereira, Senior Go-To-Market Manager at LG, to chat with us about what's new with LG televisions. Hey, Gilles, great to chat with you again.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me again. It's great to be here as always.
And from what I understand, LG is celebrating 10 years of OLED leadership. So a great time to have you back on, especially. Where do you want to start today?
Yeah, for sure. I remember it vividly. Back in 2013 when we launched OLED in Canada. Since then, we've introduced many iterations with improved technology, and we always kind of go back and understand what customers are doing with the TVs and how to make them better each year. And this year in particular, we've introduced some new lifestyle-focused products that I truly believe kind of bring that whole life's good message into the spirit of the product, where we understand, how to get the most out of the product from the customer standpoint. So to that point, we have the OLED Flex, which we'll talk about today, the OLED Objet Posé. And then we also have a non-OLED, but the technology innovation with this product is fascinating as well, the LG Stand By Me.
Okay, so let's unpack some of that. LG, of course, does stand for Life's Good. If you've spent any time in front of their TVs, you likely agreed to that. We will talk OLED more in a moment. And again, happy 10th anniversary. But let's start off with the LG Stand By Me. So this was a huge hit, I believe, on Amazon Prime Day recently. Tell us about this product, what it's all about, and what makes it so popular.
Yeah, for sure. It was very successful on Amazon Prime Day, but across the board, really, any retailer that we had in Canada that listed this product, basically the first couple of runs of inventory that came in were sold out almost immediately. So we're really, really pleased with the early results. And I think it's been so popular because it really brings to light a new product altogether, where you're kind of feeding two birds with one scone, so to speak.
I like that. Feeding two birds with one scone. It's a nicer expression, I guess. All right. So what makes it unique? Since this is radio or podcast, Gilles, please explain to us visually what the Stand By Me looks like.
Yeah, so I think the unique thing is the flexibility of use case that you have. And that comes from the fact that, first of all, it has a battery built into it. So it's a 3-hour battery. The base has wheels on it. So you could actually roll the product around your living space, whether it's a condo, whether it's a house or a cottage. It's basically mobile, and it literally stands by you as you're in your various positions in the house. So if you're in the kitchen, if you're in a bedroom, if you're in a bathroom, you can literally roll this 27-inch touchscreen display with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to slip into a bubble bath and continue watching your favorite show, you can just roll it into the bathroom.
Literally, like a master bedroom maybe where you haven't put that TV yet. This is a perfect product where it can be there but not live there. You could actually bring it from there to an adjacent room. Maybe it's your office, maybe it's a gym that you have set up. As I mentioned, it is a 27-inch full HD, so a 1080p screen, a touch screen. And it adjusts the height, the tilt. You can actually go from portrait to landscape as well. So you can actually rotate the physical screen itself. So really any media that you're watching, it really lends itself to that media consumption in a customizable way, which is brilliant.
Yeah, I like that versatility. In fact, I've been showing the LG Ultra Gear gaming monitor on TV over the past couple of weeks as a back-to-school suggestion. And I love that you can rotate it from landscape to portrait view, depending on what content you're looking at. But with the LG Stand By Me, it's a 27-inch touchscreen on wheels with up to 3 hours of battery life. And then you can move it, I guess, from the kitchen where you may be following along with a recipe to doing yoga in your living room to enjoying content in your backyard while you're grilling for the family.
Yeah, and it's got our proprietary smart TV built in. So we call it WebOS, but essentially it's a smart TV that does come with your standard streaming services like Netflix, Apple TV Plus, Disney, et cetera, et cetera. But you also have AirPlay. So any apps that we don't currently have, you can cast from your phone or tablet to the screen, which makes it very ecosystem friendly, regardless of what you're currently on, as well as NFC mirroring. So regardless of what your use case is, we definitely have a solution for you with this product.
So if I did mirror my smartphone and I wanted to look at Instagram vertically, like how the app is, that would look the same on the LG Stand By Me TV as well.
Yeah, and you could use the touchscreen to scroll through the same way that you would on your phone, but on a bigger screen.
That's like having a 27-inch tablet. Love it. Now, as a gamer, Gilles, I love the LG OLED Flex, and I had a chance to test it out 6 months ago now at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Tell us about the OLED Flex.
Yeah, very exciting product. I definitely think for me, it's probably the most hard to believe product that we've ever launched. Like you literally have to see it to believe that it's doing what it's doing. And at the spirit of this product, it really comes back to what we started talking about, which is OLED. 10 plus years of innovation in the making. At the push of a button, you can go from completely flat, so a curvature of 0, up to a 900R. So basically in 5% increments, you could go into 20 different curvature levels. So depending on what kind of game you're playing or what kind of content you're consuming, you can literally customize it to your exact viewing preference.
It's a fully bendable 42-inch OLED TV. What are some of the applications? Like, does it really just boil down to personal preference?
Yeah, I personally was never a huge fan of the curved TV because where you're sitting maybe 8 to 10 feet away when you're watching a standard TV. So that curve that's intended to create immersion, much the way that your peripheral vision and your eyes, the way your anatomy works, creates that like 3D effect. It's not really doing much if it's a TV, a standard TV 10 feet away. But when it's a gaming device like this is, and you're sitting within the sweet spot, that curve actually impacts that immersion. I would say that it is actually a functional benefit that will add to the specific gameplay that would, let's say, like car gaming or strategy games where the world is created around you, like maybe Zelda, something like that.
Yeah, great point. More with Gilles Pereira from LG to learn about new TVs when we return on Tech It Out. Stay with us.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
We are chatting with Gilles Pereira, Senior Go-To Market Manager at LG. We're talking TVs. We first spoke about the LG Stand By Me, which is a 27-inch touchscreen with a 3-hour battery life on a rollable base. Then we pivoted and chatted about the LG OLED Flex. As the name suggests, this is the world's first bendable 42-inch OLED screen. And then last but not least, let's talk about the LG Objet Pose, I think is how you pronounced it. It's a different kind of OLED TV, right?
Yeah, so this, I think, again, extends to our market research and just understanding the customers and how they're using their display technologies nowadays. And I think some customers, for sure, they're not necessarily looking for that traditional black rectangular screen on their wall. They have put a lot of effort into the interior space that they're living in. They have, maybe more modern tastes and preferences. And this product is really made for them. So it kind of lives in conjunction with other products. It's not necessarily the centerpiece of the room, but it kind of comes into the flow of the room. So it's, first of all, the cosmetic color. So it's a white, kind of a brushed white color with some textile fabrics on it. So it can also lend itself to any color palette that you have going on as well. And it's also on an easel. So just from the strict cosmetics of it, it's very different. And the use case, I would say, is also different from a standard TV customer.
So you talked about the texture and the colors that it uses, but the style itself, I know it sort of blends technology with aesthetics. We've talked about this before on the show, Gilles. It has like a media rack on the back. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so it's a really creative way to hold your media devices. But in addition to that, you could also add a little bit to the interior design. So if you want to put like a vinyl or some books and whatnot, that kind of color match the interior space that you have going. But at the same time, holding maybe a Wi-Fi router or a cable box or something to that extent. So it's a very efficient way to kind of house your electronics, but at the same way, keeping things very modern and kind of design focused.
So would you see that then if you're going to put books or vinyl records or something in there just to add decor to the room, isn't that behind the TV, or would you not put the TV flush against the wall then?
Yeah, so that's a great point. Obviously for radio, I want to reiterate that it's not a traditional kind of black rectangular screen that you mount on a wall. Because it's built onto a easel base, right. This TV would literally be in the room. So it would be maybe beside the couch.
I see.
So you would literally have it so that you would potentially be walking behind it, and it would add into that color scheme of the room.
I was at a friend's house last weekend, Gilles, and they have a 75-inch LG OLED TV on the wall. And my friend's wife's favorite feature was the gallery mode. When she's not watching TV, she likes putting on artwork, including impressionism paintings and all that, with some soft music, and there's like a meditation mode. Yeah. Does this Objet Pose television also have that gallery feature?
Yeah, it's definitely a fan favorite feature. I love it. This product does have that feature. One of the cooler parts about it is that you continue to get updates with new themes added to that gallery all the time. So I know the TV that I bought last year, for instance, has dozens more gallery options than I did last year. So it becomes better over time as well, in different kind of niches that people might have preference for. So yeah, it's a great feature. As
we wrap up, Gilles, I'm going to press you to tell me your favorite TV out of the three we've talked about. I'm going to force you. I know that you work for LG, so I don't want you to get in trouble, but if you had to pick just one for your own home, what would it be?
I'd say the Stand By Me, because it's such a unique use case, and I could think of several different ways that I would be able to add some like screen media consumption in my house that I currently don't necessarily have. So I know for me, for example, if I'm on the terrace doing a barbecue, I could easily roll this onto the terrace with me and finish watching the baseball game, as an example. Something that I do on my, my phone, but I would rather do on a 27-inch screen. I don't have the functional ability to do that, and just the sky's the limit with this product. And I think it's one of those things that people probably never thought they would need, but once they see it and they see the use case, just very exciting that there's a product that offers so many different solutions.
All right. So for the three different models that we chatted about today, Gilles, to see them in action and to get pricing and retail support and all that, what would be the best website?
For more information, you can head to lg.com/lifestyle-screens.
All right. lg.com/lifestyle-screens. For more. Gilles, thank you so much for your time today. Always a pleasure chatting with you. So informative and really exciting products for sure. Thanks again for talking to us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark. Great to be here.
Tech It Out is brought to you by ASUS. For those in search of incredible, ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. And that includes its line of award-winning laptops and desktops, accessories like monitors, mice, and keyboards. There's mobile tech like smartphones and tablets, smartwatches, and much more. For those in search of incredible, visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. Hey, thank you to my awesome guests this hour. We spoke with Airthings, then Visa, and LG. And thank you, Tech It Out listener, whether you're tuning in on your local talk radio station or in podcast form. Hope you're enjoying the show. Have a great week ahead, and I look forward to catching up with you next weekend for another episode of Tech It Out. Be well, everyone. Ciao for now.